शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये. Om. Dear friends, welcome to the Geeta. We were seeing the 27th shloka of the third chapter. Third chapter is that Karma Yoga. In that Karma Yoga, we were seeing the shloka number 27, which reads Prakrute kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudhatma kartahamiti manyate. There is a little bit of theory here. I was just telling you yesterday, I was trying to tell. That is, we see that in the Gita, Gita is not merely a religious text. In a religious text, normally it says, okay, God is like this, heaven is like this, etc., etc. In the Gita, you don't find any such thing. In the Gita, there is analysis of human behavior. In the Gita, there is analysis of what is the external universe and what is the nature of that deity. So that is how it goes about in a very scientific way, because it is the summary of all the Upanishads. So here, in this particular shloka, and also in the next 2-3 shlokas, we will be knowing about what are called the gunas. And I was telling you yesterday that the Prakriti is the manifesting power in that consciousness. And we define that supreme reality not as a human being, not as somebody, a God who is a person who is sitting in heaven, etc., etc. And because when we talk like this, people will be shocked. People will be shocked to know that Hinduism, or rather the Upanishads, do not define God as somebody like Vishnu or Shiva who is sitting somewhere in heaven, etc. We define that supreme reality as what is called consciousness only. And that supreme consciousness has a manifesting power, and that manifesting power is called Prakriti. And when it manifests, it is just an appearance. It is an appearance in that consciousness. And in this appearance, there are 3 constituents. And these constituents are called Sattva, Rajas and Tamoguna. And all the things which are there in the universe, everything, that is whether it is something which is alive or something which is not alive, that is sentient and insentient. So all these things, they are constituted by these 3 gunas only. Somewhere there is a predominance of Sattva guna, there is somewhere predominance of Rajoguna, somewhere there is predominance of Tamoguna, and in infinite number of proportions these things they combine and produce the entire variety which we see in the universe. So that is what is the whole universe. That is the reason why we find people of different characters. In psychology, what the psychologists do is they divide what are called the personality types. They say, okay, this particular person, he is of this type, he is very sober, very serious-minded person, very studious, etc., etc. Another person, he is more aggressive, robust and whatnot, he is an achiever and whatnot. Another person is a slightly dull person, etc., etc. So similarly, in the universe, these are the 3 reasons. In fact, the very first division of human beings probably was done in our own Upanishads in this particular manner. That is, this Prakriti is responsible for this manifestation. And here the shloka says, Prakruteh kriyamanani gunaihi. That is, Prakruteh gunaihi kriyamanani karmani. That is Dhanvaya. That is, it is the Prakriti which is going about. When I say that I am doing some karma, I am doing some action or some activity, engaged in some activity, what Krishna is saying is, you are not the person who are doing that work. It is Prakriti who is doing that work. How to understand this? So it is Prakriti which is manifesting as this body-mind complex. It is the Prakriti which is manifesting as my own mind and senses. And with my own, when I say that I am doing some activity, then what are all the things which are involved? My mind is involved, my sense organs are involved, my motor organs are also involved. When I am doing an activity, I may be handling something, my hand is involved, my legs are involved, my energy is involved, all these things are involved. And how do you say that this is all Prakriti? So for that we have to know a little bit of how this Prakriti evolves. Prakriti evolves into all these things. We have to know that. And in fact, the Upanishads like Taittiriya Upanishad, they talk about what is called the evolution, and they say how from that Atma or that consciousness, Etad tasmadva etasmadatmana akasha sambhutah, it says. The very first manifestation is that Akasha. There is something called energy, that is the vital airs, that is one thing. And there is another thing which is responding to external universe and getting the signals from the external universe. For example, my eye is getting a signal from, there is a light which is there on a particular object. So that means my eye is responding to what is called light. My sense of touch is responding to what is called The sense of touch, the skin is responding to air. The air is the primary thing which gives that sense of touch, and thereafter of course lot many other things also. And again, the sense of taste, my tongue, it knows that sense of taste, it responds only to that sense of taste. And these five senses, they correspond to the five elements which are there outside. And in other words, what Vedanta puts forth a hypothesis that these five elements, Prithvi, Apaha, Tejo, Vayu and Akasha, they get transformed into what are called this gross body and the energy body and also the so-called mind body. The mind body is the mind and also the five senses. The senses, of course, they correspond to only one element, whereas the mind is a collective product. It is a collective product of all the five elements. And in these five elements, there is Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna and Tamo Guna. And the mind and the senses are derived from the Sattva Guna. The mind and the senses are derived from the Sattva Guna of these elements. And of course, there is another thing called, I don't want to go into too many details because it will confuse. Because the five elements, they are called Tanmatra. I will not go into that. I am mentioning this word so that if there is some scholar who knows the subject among the audience, he may think that I am not aware of it. So, at least to say that, okay, this is what is called Tanmatra. I will not go into that. So, anyway, if you want to hear more about that, we can actually see a more detailed talk on Bhagavad Gita. My own talks are there on the website, because where I have explained every word of the Bhashyam also, all the Shankaracharya's Bhashyam I have explained. So, that I will leave it like that. But now, right now I want to say that the mind is the collective product of the Sattva Guna of all the five elements. And the Sattva Guna of the five elements, they cause these five senses, and the Rajo Guna is responsible for the air, that is the vital air or vital force or energy in the body, that is the energy body. And this Tamo Guna of the five elements, they are responsible for the body, that is the gross body. So, this is how there is a hypothesis. This hypothesis is also there in the Kapila's Sankhya, and probably this Kapila's Sankhya is actually accepted by the Vedantins also. So, that is what we see here. So, this is something which is applicable not only to people in India. It is not as though this Bhagavad Gita, this analysis of Sattva, Rajas and Tamoguna, it is universally applicable. Good people are there in this society, good people are there in some other society, good people are there in Africa, good people are there in America. And similarly, bad people are there here, bad people are there in Africa, bad people are there in America. Aggressive people, ruthless, cruel people are there here, they are also there everywhere. So, this is something which is universal. So, what Gita says is something which is a analysis, it is a sort of universal analysis, not something relating to some particular region, not something relating to a particular area, some particular people. It is not something like that. It is basically for the entire humanity. So, this is what we see here. So, here in this shloka, what Krishna is saying is, these five elements which are transformed into the five senses. The five elements, I repeat, these five elements are transformed into the five senses and also the mind. This is what is called Prakriti Parinamavada. It is not God who directly, or it is not Brahman, it is not that consciousness which is directly transforming itself into this. It is not God who is creating. It is not as though when we say that God has created earth, we mean that there is some powerful gentleman who is standing in the sky, he is taking some material and then he created all these things. Or from out of nothing, like a magician, he creates all these things. It is not like that. Our Upanishads, they don't say like that. There is no such particular person who is standing in the sky and then who is creating all these things. It only says that all over there is an infinite consciousness, and in that infinite consciousness, this appearance of this whole universe is there. And in this appearance, we are also part of that appearance. You and I, we are all part of that appearance. And when I say that I, and when you say that you also say I, you feel that you are different from me. When I say I am different from you. So, this individuated notion, this individuated consciousness is responsible for getting this idea I, etc. I and mine, I also feel, you also feel, everybody in the world feels, even an ant feels, even every animal, it has got that I notion. And that when that I notion is there, that will to survive is there, and when that will to survive is there, some people do it by sattvika means, some people do by rajasa means, and some people do by tamoguna means. So the styles differ according to the predominance of the quality, predominance of sattva guna, or predominance of rajoguna, or predominance of tamoguna. So in this particular shloka, what Krishna is saying is, you are not that. You are not that Prakriti. Your essential nature is you are of the nature of that Supreme Consciousness only. And that what you are seeing as body-mind complex is only just a sort of appearance. It is a tentative, a temporary appearance in that entire thing. Because we all know that we are all temporary beings. We are all temporary beings means we are all spatially limited. Spatially limited means limited in space, and we are limited in time, and we are limited by being X, Y, Z. I am not you and you are not me. I am limited by being my own limited self. You are limited by being your own limited self, etc. So we are having all these limitations. This is only a temporary appearance. But the reality is that underlying consciousness which is there in all the beings and in all the things, both sentient and insentient things. So as what is the real self? If you want to know what is the real self is not this body-mind complex. The real self is that supreme reality. So that is what he says. So the ahankara vimudhatma kartahamiti manyate. A person who is deluded into thinking, ahankara does not mean arrogance. I told you yesterday also. Ahankara means this I notion, the notion of I, that is identification with this body-mind complex. A person who is identifying with this body-mind complex, he thinks, yes, I am doing this, I want this result, I want this, etc., etc. But a jnani, he is aware that his real self is something different. But he also accepts all this, what is called a temporary reality. It is called this temporary reality or a transactional reality. That is the world around him. He has to interact. He also has to follow rules, the social rules. A jnani should not say, he cannot say, okay, he cannot violate traffic, and he cannot say, yes, I am jnani, I am above all these things, I don't recognize all this is mithya. He should not say. A jnani has to jolly well follow all the rules. So similarly, jnani also has to follow the dharma, whatever is the dharma of the society, a jnani also has to follow. So that is what Krishna was saying even earlier, that a person, a jnani, asakto hyacharan karma, even as asakta, kuryad vidvans tata asakta, he was saying yesterday or day before. So it is like that. A jnani is also, he is supposed to accept this tentative reality. At a higher level, he may not accept. At a higher level, he sees all this as an appearance. But at a transactional level, at an empirical level, at a practical level, he also accepts these differences, and then you, me, I, mine, etc. at a tentative level, in a very, very temporary sense. So that is what it is. So here, ahankara vimudhatma, a person who is deluded, he thinks he is the doer. So this philosophy, this particular philosophy we have to keep in mind, because this idea that there are what are called, there is a manifestation called Prakriti, and in that Prakriti there are three gunas, and these gunas, they are the doer. They are actually the karta, karma, kriya in the entire creation. The karta, karma, kriya in the entire creation, in the entire universe are these three gunas. The next shloka also, he is saying the same thing. Krishna is saying the same thing. So in 27, he was talking about ahankara vimudhatma, a person who is identifying, an ordinary man. He is not a fool. He is an ordinary man. He may be a professor, he may be a great scholar, etc. So the next shloka, it is talking about an atma jnani, tattvavit. Tattvavit, the meaning of tattvavit, tattvam is the reality. In Sanskrit, the word tat means that. Tattvam means thatness. Thatness means the reality about that particular object. And when we say tat in Sanskrit, particularly in the Upanishadic literature, that tat, the word tat refers to that supreme reality, what we call Brahman. So tattvam is the knowledge of that Brahman. And tattvavit is the person who is having that knowledge of that Brahman. So the next shloka, that is 28, it is talking about that tattvavit. So the distinction, the difference between an ordinary man and how a tattvavit behaves, we are seeing in this particular shloka. So I will read this shloka. Tattvavittu mahabaho gunakarma vibhagayoho Guna guneshu vartanta iti matva na sajjate. Tattvavit tu. Tattvavit tu. That is tu. Tu means on the other hand. Tu, it always distinguishes from the earlier whatever narration has taken place already. The letter tu, whenever it comes, on the other hand, whatever he has, something has been told earlier, but on the other hand, a jnani, how is a jnani reacting? Tattvavittu Mahabaho, he is calling Arjuna as Mahabaho, mighty armed man. Guna karma vibhagayoh tattvavit. Tattvavit of what? A person who knows what is a guna, what is a karma, that vibhaga, all that thing he knows. So this tattvavit is a person who realizes that it is not he who is doing. Then what does he say? He says, Guna guneshu vartante. Gunaha guneshu vartante. So that guna is interacting with gunas. What does it mean? Just now we saw the earlier shloka that it is these prakriti gunas, the sattva, rajas and tamo guna, which are transforming into our senses, the mind, the body-mind complex, not only of human beings, but even an ant, a mosquito, anything, a scorpion, a snake, everything. All the animals, all the sentient and insentient things, and also all the trees, plants, vegetables, whatever it is. It is these three gunas which are transforming themselves into the entire body-mind complex. So the jnani, he knows that his identity, his real identity is that of the same supreme reality. Whereas this gunaha, guneshu vartante, gunaha means the senses. Guna, as I said, guna means, in other words, senses are the derivatives from that gunas. Senses are the derivative of sattva, rajas and sattva guna only, of these five elements. The sense organs, the five senses, the five what we call jnanendriya. This jnanendriya are derived from this sattva component of that gunas. And this prana, the energy, is derived from the rajas component of these five elements. And the body, the gross body, is derived from the tamas component of the five elements. So he is aware of it. So he knows that gunaha guneshu vartante. And what is the next? What is the meaning of the second letter, second word guna? One guna is senses. The second guna is the objects, sense objects. The sense objects are also composed of or constituted by these three gunas only. So when I am looking at a vegetable, that vegetable also is composed of the three elements. When I am eating something, that thing is composed of these three elements. And when I am having some sort of ice cream, that ice cream also is composed of these three elements. So everything in the universe is composed of the three elements. So I am also a product of the three elements, and I am going after these three elements only. So gunaha guneshu vartante. So the senses are seeking the sense objects, because it is from those sense objects that these senses are formed. So there is a sort of interaction between them. There is a sort of interaction. There is some sort of coordination, something which has been derived from that. Naturally, it is seeking that. So that is what we have to understand here. Gunaha guneshu vartante. So here the senses also we see, as I was saying, the sense of sight responds only to tejas. The sense of touch responds only to that touch, that air. And sense of smell is said to be associated with Prithvi. Whatever is Prithvi, it is associated with sense of smell. Sense of taste, it is said to be associated with water. So that is how each sense is responding to only one particular element. So guna guneshu vartante iti matva na sajjate. So this particular argument, which is called Prakriti Parinamavada, is one theory which we see in this Bhagavad Gita. And we will continue tomorrow, because one or two more shlokas, one more shloka, he is telling about these gunas only. We will see it tomorrow. Harihi Om Tat Sat.